legislature legalized unverifiable voting in 2000.
Like you said to Trump, but they're getting beauty.
They said, go out there and rob these houses and bring back the bounty, and then that'll pay your way.
Because Republicans who get endorsement from Georgia carry that they mean anything.
You can't sit on the sidelines any longer. You must get involved in the game. This is your sign.
All of us coming back. I cannot accept this fade to black, and the thought of the wasted dreams of a nation down on its knees. Is it already over? Tickets to the circus show. If you don't, then you'll never know. Take a stand while you have the time. Drown your fear and keep hope alive. Be the change that you want to see. Be the wrench inside the machine. Is it already over? Is it already over? I don't think it's over.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Small Town Underground this Wednesday evening, April the 8th. My goodness, how time is flying by. Already in April of 2026. If you're just joining us tonight, please help share the show. I haven't got to the groups yet. I will be in just a minute, but this is going to be yet another jam-packed special show tonight. We are doing open lines. Really, no topic is off limits. And love to have, of course, Antonio from War Room Georgia. He had an excellent show today. A lot of great guests on War Room today. You definitely need to go back and hit the rebroadcast of that. And he's with me tonight. And also Street Level America, you know him. Dave Adams is with us this evening. Dave has been plugging away in all different kinds of media all over the place. And it's been too long since we've had him back on the show. So, guys,
well, it's good to be back.
Yes, I'm going to welcome you guys tonight to this live stream. We are taking phone calls. We are taking comments. We want to hear from you. We're going to discuss a few things tonight. And none of this has actually been pre-planned. We've just been talking. So, I think what we'll do is, Dave, I just kind of want to, they see a lot of me and Antonio. So I want to kind of start with you tonight. Just tell everybody about Street Level America and what you've been up to, sir.
Well, we've been one of the things we're trying to do is I'm also a pastor. Love America, love God. And there's one of the things that I hear from a lot of people is a lot of people are just getting extremely frustrated. A lot of people are giving up hope. We're talking, and nothing's off limits here. So we're going to talk about one of the things that I've been talking about a lot, and you have as well, is the future of the Georgia Republican Party. And of course, the Marjorie Taylor Greene race was just held. A Republican narrowly won. a lot of Republicans didn't go to the polls. And one of the reasons is because they feel disenfranchised. And my message to the Georgia GOP Republican Party leadership, you need to wake up and you need to really re-engage with Main Street conservative Republicans in Georgia because they feel left out and they're voting by not voting. And so if you don't want to have an election where the Democrats win and then you wonder what the heck happened, it's because let's go back to the Dalton convention. You shut them off the mic, you kicked them out of the room, and they're not showing up at the polls. So you need to get engaged with your grassroots. So one of the things that we like to do is say, hey, folks, we know there's a lot of issues that even amongst the three of us, there's issues that we don't all totally agree on, but we have to agree on big picture items. And we have to say, we want to save America and independence in America. And what exactly does that look like? We're going to have some tough conversations, very in-depth conversations. And when we come to the point where we don't always agree on things, we can't just say, well, screw this, I'm out of the room. We got to stay engaged. We got to keep going to the polls, and we got to keep going after this. One of the things that talk about motivation that keeps me motivated is we were doing a Gold Star family visitation with I think it was the Patriot Guard or the American Legion. I think it was American Legion Riders, and it was in Oregon. And we visited about 5 families whose kids had been tortured to death in Iraq or Afghanistan. And one mother came to me and said, "Please tell me my son died for something important because he was my son." I will never ever forget the look in her eyes and the tone in her voice. And when things, when we have a problem with groups coalescing and getting together, I always go back to that. That's kind of my monument moment that keeps me motivated and keeps me engaged. Another thing is, I don't want to hijack the show here, but another thing that keeps me engaged is the story recently of the weapons officer that climbed a 7,000-foot cliff to safety. He didn't give up. He could have just let go and fall, but he didn't. He kept climbing up to safety. And that's what we as conservative groups need to do. So what we do at Street Level America is try to do things to say, hey, folks, let's work together on this. One of the projects we have is called redwaveradio.us. We've written about 50 songs that are pro-America, pro-Trump, and you can listen to them. It's 24/7, redwaveradio.us. We're also going to be at the NRA convention in Houston, Texas. I know Lucretia Hughes. We all know Lucretia. She's going to have a booth there, I believe. And we're going to be doing our own thing. And we're going to be walking in the convention hall talking to people about the Second Amendment and the importance of that, and also what's going on in America. So what we like to do is just say, Street Level America, let's get out there, because America constitutional values are going to be saved by values of Main Street America.
We certainly hope and pray.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know you've been up to quite a bit, man. All right, Antonio, why don't you give us a show recap today, and then we'll kind of start digging in where you want to start, okay?
Man, had so many great guests today. I don't even know where to start. We had Garland Favorito on from Voter GA. Shout out to everybody that helps him keep that operation and organization going. We had Joe Hoft, writer for the Gateway Pundit, on today. Talked about good. Tina Peters, her situation out there. He also covered Todd Blanche and the reason why he's not the Attorney General to go with. Then we powered through a number of other issues. We had Alexandra Bauer on. She's a regular Newsmax contributor. She also is a Maha mom, so she was talking on there about some wins and losses. Mm-hmm. The thing I loved about the conversation just overall is we want to give credit where it's due, but we also want to have criticism when it's needed. We also had Roy Hambrick from Small Town Underground came on, hailing from the mighty Northwest Georgia, hanging out with us today. So shout out to you, Roy, for coming on today. Mark Swanson from Floyd County was on. He hosted the third and final segment. We're going to be doing more of that simply because the platform is like a stage. So I personally don't want to have a a show where it's just me or whatever. And that's why I try to have guests on, because they are the subject matter experts. I'm just a guy. I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I hope to become smarter by bringing those conversations as people educating me to the airwaves, so that the public can become more informed too as well. Our special guest today was Holly Taree. She has a group on Facebook, Gwinnett County Parents for Quality Education. She's also the representative for Citizens Defending Freedom, where faith meets politics. And she did a fantastic job. We went through a number of things, even in and outside of what's going on with the Gwinnett County School Board, just a number of issues. And I'm hoping that the public will engage in debate. I might be getting too far ahead. So I'm piggyback off Dave. So I'm going to throw something in here too. It seems like ever since Charlie Kirk was assassinated, certain things or different aspects start to unravel. My concern there was the wisdom that came along with Charlie. Not just that, but being able to get in a room with people, put a microphone in the hand of an opposing opinion, and just go at it and battle it out. Truth is always going to be stronger than a lie. So we should never be afraid to get out here and engage in healthy debate.
Totally agree with you. Totally agree with you. It seems like that we're the conversation table is slipping away from us, and it can only, to me, it be explained by psychological warfare, where we are completely pitted against each other to a point where there is no middle ground anymore, right? You're either 100%. It's almost like the Democrat Party when I look at like liberalism, and how if you had a thought or a question different outside of their ethos, you were literally like excommunicated. It feels that way as happening on the other side, right? The conservative side of this. So you can, if you, Lord forbid, you ask a question or don't understand something, or you get chastised. And we've got to come back to the conversation, and absolutely.
Can I add something on that?
Sure.
On our Podbean statistics, for whatever reason, and it's kind of, I believe, an answer to prayer. 52% of our listeners right now on our Podbean Street Level America and the Mason Lincoln Radio Show are from Virginia.
Really?
And a lot of our audience right now is from blue states.
Mm.
Now, the cool thing about that is they're listening to what we have to say. Now, maybe they're taking notes to find out about what the other team is saying so they know how to fight against it. But I want to think that they're opening and wanting to hear what we have to say. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was really, really interesting. I was quite surprised. Tennessee, Georgia has often been the leaders in our stats, but in the last 2 months, it's been blue states. Mm. And the last time I looked at the states, 52% are listening from Virginia. Why? I don't know. Why all of a sudden Virginia spiked so much?
Well,
I don't know.
I certainly hope that Virginians are just as focused as a lot of us Georgians on data centers right now, because they're being completely overrun with them. And I'd like to see some more Democrats out there get in the election integrity business, because it seems like we're drowning over here, especially in Ground Zero, Georgia, where we can barely now even get any breadcrumbs for paper ballots or anything that is secure. So I hope these people out here listening will take a cue, because if I'm not mistaken, is it Virginia or West Virginia now that's the number one state of data centers, with like they're in the 3,000 range, I believe. It's pretty up there. It's pretty up there.
Yeah, I'm gonna look it up, because Roy, you had the power post, I think,
that's
today,
right.
And I shared you. Let me look on your page. I know Georgia has 51.
Now that post was just data centers currently, I think, being built.
Being built. Okay, under construction.
Under construction. Okay. I point this out, folks, because I'm seeing some talk from people. They're like, "Oh God, guys, data centers aren't that big of a deal. Your Netflix is going to go faster with data centers, and this is the economic fuel to get the pistons pumping." And I'm like, you have zero idea what these data centers are for. And if it's not alarming enough to see how many are being built at the moment, and I found it. Data centers under construction in the U.S. as of February 2026 in Georgia. Right now, there's 51 data centers. But guess what, Virginia? At the moment, in addition to what you already have, there is 134 data centers under construction currently.
Yep.
That's insane. What in the world is going on in Virginia?
Yeah. And there's nowhere that I've seen these things that there haven't been problems, noise. People are actually complaining about health problems. I don't know if it has to do with the frequency and electrical emissions. I really don't know the extent of the data and science behind that. There's a caller coming in.
All right.
I don't know if you want to take that now, Roy.
We can. I'm open for anything. Let's hear him.
Okay. All right. You're live on Saddle Small Town Underground.
Oh, I didn't know I was live. Okay. I was just wondering, we don't want data centers in our town since they just opened up 1 million up in space. Why can't we connect to those and just leave our cities alone and not destroy our earth with all that mess?
Well, if you want my answer, it's because I don't think that these data centers are being built with you and me in mind. Does that make sense?
Oh, no, I know they're not built with you and me in mind. There's no doubt about that. I mean, that's one of the reasons I don't want them, because it's not for us anyway. I know they're going to monitor everything we do, everything that goes to the bathroom. They're going to monitor anyway. I'll just put it that way.
That's true. That's true. I mean, they're already creating digital selves. The controllers, they're going to use this artificial intelligence to make their mind, make them live forever. I mean, this is documented stuff. And then artificial intelligence is going to be the next technocratic revolution. So, we want to look at technology and think that it's our friend, and we're using all of this wonderful technology now. But one day when we have some sort of, sentient evolution, I don't know how well that we're going to be able to contain it or control it. And of course, these things take all of the resources that we humans have to survive. So where's the balance in that?
I mean, we don't have to have data centers, but we do have to have water and air,
That's right.
And they mess that up.
They certainly have.
And I don't know. We're fighting it in Columbus, Georgia, and our, I guess, the powers that be here are just really trying to pull a fast one and do it like behind closed doors. And we're just very, very upset. But then I think that's the playbook everywhere for those people that they go in, they brainwash the counselors and all that, and then they kind of do stuff behind closed doors and build it whether you want it or not. And we're just really upset here.
Yeah.
And kind of don't know what to do to stop it,
Yes, ma'am. They're being instructed by unelected bureaucrats in the state of Georgia, the wonderful governor who wants Georgia to be #1 in data centers. So I hope you guys are forming citizen groups and learning all you can about it and going and participating in your local meetings and voicing your opinion about these. I hope you're doing that.
We are doing that. Not that it's probably doing a whole lot of good, but we are doing that.
It's okay. We don't ever stop fighting.
Anyway, I was just wondering why, since they got them all up in space, why they got to do it down here now. Why couldn't they connect up there?
No telling.
They're destroying our Earth. They are.
Yeah.
So, anyway,
well,
that was my point. Why can't they do it up in space, connect up there with all those data centers? They just shot up there instead of doing it down here. That was just my question. So, anyway, that's it.
Well, thank you. Thank you for calling.
Can I add a couple of comments to that?
Sure.
I've covered city council meetings and chamber meetings, county government meetings in Oregon for about 20, 30 years. One thing that really attracts public officials is tax base and taxable assets. And one of the things that they'll try to use to sell those to the people is look at the value of the asset, and we're going to be able to tax pay. This is going to lower your taxes. So that's one thing that's going to try to sell to you as it's being sold to them as a way to decrease the tax load on property taxpayers. Okay, that's just one example. And so that's one thing that could be used to sell it to them, the lobbyists.
Right.
And so that
No,
they
and
sell them on that, and then they turn around and they use that argument to sell it to you. Now, one of the things that you did mention about just, hey, it's not going to do any good. You keep beating on the door, keeping up, and sometimes it's a test of wills, and who gives up first loses. So you just have to keep it up. And I know it's very frustrating to I mentioned the Dalton Convention. There's a lot of people very upset still about that. We and a lot of times I think we feel like government isn't listening to us, but we just have to keep beating on that door and simply not give up. We have to climb that 7,000-foot mountain just like that WSO did in Iran.
Yep.
yeah. Well, I sure do appreciate you giving the time. Okay.
Yes.
Thanks for the call.
Thank you.
Bye.
Speaking of not giving up, you look at Murray County, the Vanguard Biowaste facility. I never thought I would see it, but they pulled out. They pulled out of Murray County. There was a huge community outreach about that. They all went and voiced their concerns, their opinions. They changed the minds of their local leaders. And I honestly did not think that they would pull out, but they certainly have. And so you can get some victories here. What do you think, Antonio?
Yeah, without a doubt, we still have to continue to show up. And as demoralizing as it feels like, because we go down to the Capitol, not myself as much as many others, and we just kind of feel like we're just yelling off into the abyss and nothing's happening. So Murray County is a great example of what happens when there's consistency and drive to actually try and stop some of this stuff.
Yeah.
One thing that motivates those people running for office is votes. And if they feel like they're losing votes, they will grab their attention. So that's why you folks just keep beating on the door.
Yeah. Speaking of votes, we didn't get much in election integrity this legislative session. We had a lot of good stuff that started out in the Senate that, was good and hopeful. And by the time it got to the House, it was a garbage dump of a train wreck. And we ended up not even passing a 214, even fixed or not fixed. It's kind of been nasty this session. So you would think with as many, blue ribbon committees that we did and the recommendations and the common sense solutions. Let's go back to Fulton County, the FBI, which we still haven't heard anything about those ballots. They are still blocking electors from the Board of Elections in Fulton County. We have executive orders and mandates in place about mail-in ballots, about paper ballots, yet a Republican-controlled Georgia Gold Dome decided that they were just going to take a pass. What's your takes?
Well, this goes back to what Dave just talked about. And, me and you talk about this all the time. Two things, cheap labor. And what's the other thing, Roy? Taxes.
Tax base.
So through the eyes of the pirates, the political pirates is what they are, because they just want to get access to the tax base. Even if you look at the value of money, even in this country, it's not tied to anything. It's just tied to the fact that Americans will go out here and work. I think that's really what the new currency is. They didn't do the Doge thing. Hey, let's go and look in Fort Knox. I don't think they really want to tie the money to anything other than the human beings for right now. And you're right, Roy, they don't have a plan for us as far as data centers are concerned, but it all boils down to them being able to control and leverage that tax base. So they cheat in order to steal. That's why the elections are so important, because just think about it. Think about over time, Roy, how demoralized people have come. And a lot of people just say, man, I'm not going to continue to drive. I'm not getting anywhere. But imagine if the elections really were free and fair and secure, and we actually had real elections. You would have more people showing up. You would have more Murray counties happening. It would be happening all over the place. Sure. But if that happens, that kills the whole deal. And I believe the globalist establishment in the state and county governments, they understand that. That's why they're not really trying to get down to election integrity. They want to be able to control and manipulate pick the winners and the losers, just like in a casino.
Yeah.
They'll give you something every now and again. And I think Murray County is fantastic. But that reminds me of like when you go in a casino and you hear the machine going off over there and it just keeps going off. And I'm not telling people not to show up and vote. We still have to show up, just like Dave said earlier. But this thing is rigged, just enough to make enough of us think that it's real or whatever the case may be. I don't believe it's real, Roy.
No.
I just can't wrap my mind around as high as groceries are and gas and all of that people would in some areas would vote for a freaking e-splost. They tax me more.
Well, hang on now.
It's not taxing me enough. It's either we have gone crazy,
right,
or the system's rigged. It's probably a little bit of the first one, but definitely the second one, in my opinion.
Well, you want to talk about gambling? Think about this. People aren't voting for these e-splosts and these t-splosts. The system is rigged so that they hold these elections for these splost taxes on an off year in a hurricane and snowstorm at 3:00 in the morning, where all of the county employees, they only know about it. And they're pretty much cheerleading and said, hey, we'll get you a box of pizza if you go vote for this. So no. The people are not voting for these taxes. These are very strategically placed elections so that they get the least amount of turnout, which I think is criminal. It's absolutely criminal. At the beginning of this session, I was very giddy for the property tax decreases, freezes, the income tax gone. We were being fed hook, line, and sinker, right? And I even brought this up. I'm like, we need a bill that takes these elections, these special elections, and puts them on a general ballot. And lo and behold, guess what? The law is written where counties can dictate when they have elections. So, it's one of the carousel of finger pointing. Nobody can do anything about it. It's this person over here, and then you go to that person. Well, it's that person over here. It's like nothing can ever get fixed, and I don't think they want. The fix is already in. So,
yeah, it's bifurcated on purpose.
Yeah,
and that's the that's the school systems thing over there. If you go to your county commissioner, we don't run that. You're right. It's like a circular fire range of finger pointing, and it's set up to be that way. I mean, I don't think the counties. I think the city should have never surrendered the schools to the county. I mean, it just makes you're that much further away from being able to get something done when you should be able to go right there, just like in Gwinnett, to your city councilman and deal with an issue with the school board.
Right.
But also, you got to go to the county. And I really think they split these things up, Dave, and correct me if I'm wrong, because it's like a tree branch that splits. And then the money leaves have to go on this branch over here and this branch now. It's kind of like having an HOA and you got code enforcement, right? It's like you're being double taxed for your neighbor or yourself to be in compliance, but you got to pay an annual HOA on top of that.
Yeah.
Well, part of what they use to sell that to the local public is if we share the cost with the county, then it's going to be cheaper for you. It's back to the tax base issue again. And we simply, like I just said, and sometimes I feel like I'm a broken record when I'm doing the podcast, is folks, don't give up, keep beating on the door, keep banging that drum, because there comes a point where you point your finger at the county commissioner and say, you're fired. And you will be fired. You will be fired next election. You said nothing was off limits. And I hate to disparage people publicly, but I'm going to use, and Roy and I talked about this the other day, gentleman running for governor, Ken Yasgur, was at Gainesville. And he was asked about election integrity. And the audience there wants to have elections we can trust and count on. Yasgur is running for governor, saying, well, that's the Secretary of State's responsibility. I'm running for governor, so I really don't have a plan for that because it's not my job. Folks, if you're Ken or anybody, if you're running for office, you better have some ideas, because the public is sick and tired of having people running for office and saying, just trust me.
Yeah.
It ain't working. The purest form of insanity is to keep doing the same thing, expecting different results.
Mhm.
So, folks, if you're running for office, have a plan and know that there's certain hot button issues in Georgia. One of them is election integrity.
Sure.
The people are not angry; they're furious over voting in Oregon. Sorry. Kick back to where I used to be from, but voting in Georgia. We need to have you who are in office do your job. If you don't do your job, we're going to fire you. And and back to what you're saying about school boards being making larger and going onto the county instead of the city's tax base. How they're selling that to the people is that we're going to share the cost, and it will bring your taxes down, and that's part of how they're selling it. What in reality happens is you lose control, because the monster gets bigger, and it's harder to pin somebody down on issues like textbook issues, like pornographic issues in textbooks. But there comes a point where you just have to look at the county commissioner and say, buddy, the buck stops here. Remember the old black and white picture of, was it Truman in the White House says the buck stops here?
Yeah.
We're not seeing that from politicians now. And so we as the public have to say, you're going to get fired, and we're going to see to it that you're going to get fired unless you fix this. One of the generals that helped win World War II was mind blank here. Not MacArthur, but Patton. General George Patton. Blood and Guts Patton. And one of the things that this was funny the other day. So I'm digressing here a little bit, but hear me out. They said, George, you're saying these inflammatory things about the Russians, and they don't know when you're kidding. And Patton said, they don't have to know when I'm kidding. Only I have to know when I'm kidding. In other words, he said, this is what we're going to do. And by damn, we're going to do it. And so we need to go to the people in office and say, fix this or you're fired, and mean it. And then talk to our neighbors and get recall petitions and saying, the buck stops here. I know you don't have a sign on your desk saying that, but we're the electorate, and we hold your job in our hands, and we're going to see you're fired.
So Dave, is it just like a political cultural issue in like, just say county commission versus, just say you like your school board? Is it just like a unsaid, well, you don't say anything negative about what's going on at the school? So it's like if I go to the county commission meeting next week and say, hey, this freaking school board is out of control. You are the chair of the county commission, and you're going to sit here and tell me that this is not your department. You know, I mean, who is higher up in the county than you? If you're like the chair of the county commission and you're sitting in here telling us that you ain't got nothing to say about East Bloss, you have nothing to say about the millage rate, you just worried about the general operating budget, and that's it. When we got a $3.4 billion budget just for the school system here, and they fired two school superintendents within the last 3 years, I believe, and just brought a lady in that's superintendent of that's managed like 1/5. And I don't have any problem with the size, because sometimes people have to move up. I get that.
Sure.
Might take a coach from a 1AA and maybe he going 1A because he's good, but that's not the case here. There have been like extensive problems with this superintendent that they hired this quote unquote search firm to find. And you can do a simple Google and find, I guess, images or information or reports on her being a host of some type of drag queen talent show or something crazy like that. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? And then the county commission chair, none of these people say anything. Oh, that's not my department.
Well, you're the county commission chair, so it is your job. You're allowing that to happen on your watch. So we're coming after your job. We're going to run somebody to take your job, fix it, or you're fired next election.
Hold on.
We have to come down and say that.
Hold the phone here, though. You're missing one important point about all this. The school board has their own millage rate. The commissioner has their own millage rate. You ask any commissioner, the way it's set up in Georgia law, the commissioner of a county has no say, absolutely no say over what the school board does. They
Then
don't,
go to the,
by
then go to
law.
the school, then go to the school board.
Exactly. So you've got the school board over here doing their own thing with their own separate millage rate, and then that's where our property taxes come in. And then you've got the commissioner over here that's doing a completely other, and they have a completely other separate millage rate. And neither one of them can tell anybody what to do. In fact, I think the school board probably has higher authority over the commissioner of the county, because the county cannot tell the school board what to do. And that is law. And that is something we've learned in the last couple of years. So
then go to the school board.
Sure.
Find out where the buck stops.
Mm-hmm. And, like our school boards,
your job.
You have to send an email in advance. If it's most of the time, if it's a big situation, if there's 10 people there that want to speak about the same thing, you have to have one representative to go up and speak. Of course, I believe the students can speak as many as they want, but it's very highly regulated in my county, where you can't just go to a school board and you can't just bring something up in the middle of a meeting. It has to be sent in, and it has to be noted, and all these things. Very, very heavily regulated. So it's hard to do.
Okay, but there's a way around that. Here's how you do that. You put pressure on them outside of the meeting. Okay, what do I mean by that? Send them emails, call them on the phone. Now, one of the challenges, and I've seen it happen in Oregon, I've seen it happen in Georgia. We both have friends that have ran into that situation where you exceeded your 3 minutes of talking time, so you're arrested and drug out. So what you do is you do an end run and say, okay, you're not going to give me my 3 minutes of talking, but we're talking to our neighbors, and we're gonna blow up your email box. We're gonna call you on the phone. Don't damage their property or break their windows, but put pressure on these people in a legal, polite way. Now, what I mean by polite is don't do anything illegal and break anything, or shoot out the tires of the car, but put political pressure on them. Now, one of the things that they're using is they're saying, okay, we're going to shut you down the public comment period, and they believe you're just going to get tired and fed up and frustrated, just go away and shut up. Don't go away and shut up. Find other ways to let them know you're very unhappy. Emails, get groups together in your neighborhood and let them know that you didn't give me my 3 minutes at the meeting, but we're out here and we're very unhappy. And they realize that. So find ways around that blocking of the 3 minute public comment period, which is a joke in many municipalities, and put pressure on them.
Yeah, well, I mean, I hear you, and you're kind of we're all preaching to the choir here. We're all activists, and that's the problem. I think when a lot of this responsibility sort of seems to lay on people like us who are vocal and active, and so many other people either don't care or they think that everything's just hunky dory, and then we're all a bunch of weeds that need to be pulled out of the grass bed. My commissioners actually used that statement before about people that are bringing up legitimate concerns that they are like weeds in a garden that need to be pulled up and tossed to the side. I mean, this is the level we're dealing with here. So,
but what they're banking on is you're going to get frustrated and go away and give up.
Demoralized.
I'm getting close.
Understand that. I've talked to a lot of people that are, and they have to understand that we're not giving up, we're not shutting down, and we're not giving up. And they need to see that, they need to hear that, and when they do, that's when the ground starts to move.
Dave.
But what they can do is, if they feel like that you're going to get fed up and frustrated, if just one or two people show up and eventually those one or two people go away, they think they win.
But the fish are biting, Dave. The fish are biting.
The fish are biting.
Yes. I'm ready to take my fishing rod, put it all over my shoulder, and head over to the lake now. I'm getting weary. All right. I feel like the more that we try, the almost the worse things turn out. Let's take election integrity, for example. And of course, we're going to get to some other bigger topics in a minute.
Sure.
But look, we've been in the trenches here for years. People that are way higher up on the food chain and like more, knowledgeable, and the people that have brought court cases. I don't know how you can get so much election providence and still not be able to move the needle. It's very disheartening, and I understand we don't give up. We were giving up, we wouldn't be here tonight. But when you literally have the smoking gun that you can hand over to somebody and say, here, and they look at you still like a deer in the headlights, it's very frustrating, very frustrating. I mean,
I hear that. I hear that. And I
asked
totally
this
understand
question on the last, Voter Georgia, the Constitutional Party, they had their update after the legislative session. And I just brought a simple question up to them. I said, look, I think that this group is one of the greatest groups of people that I've ever worked with and listened to and been a part of. I said, but I need some motivation. Tell me why I should even ever vote again. Why should I care about voting in any election moving forward? Because we all know, even the people that claim that elections are fine know that there's some issues that have been completely ignored. And I asked that question tonight, why should I care? They're not taking it seriously, so why should I take it seriously, right? I don't think that's I don't even think that's defeatist, but it's just like, there's that question, why, I'm still trying to figure that out.
Well, you know my position on it.
I do.
I'm not. We just don't give up. And
yes.
And how do I say this without getting preachy? So a lot of times, what I say is I believe in God and I believe in answer to prayer, and we just don't give up, and we answer to a higher authority, and so I was just reading some things. I could talk for an hour on this, and I won't. I'll cut to the chase. Sometimes we all get tired, and where do we go to get our batteries recharged? Where do we go?
Usually, if I'm talking to you guys or around a campfire.
There we go. But one of the things that we're also fighting, and I'm going to probably make a few enemies tonight, but hey, everything's on the table, right? Sometimes I'm not going to mention names, but I was seeing this, I don't want to mention the company because I don't want to get sued, but where do pastors go to get their support? Where do they go to get their batteries recharged? And I was reading this was about 15 minutes before we went on the air. Where do pastors go to get their batteries recharged? Well, they need to get counseling. They need to have a support group. They need to pray to God, man. They need to pray to God. And we need to get back to the first generation church that was supercharged by, and I don't want to get preachy here, but I'm a pastor. And that's where we go to get charged. And I take that into what I do politically. That's where I go to get the support. That's where I go to get the charge. That's where I go to get the motivation to keep saying, don't give up. Keep climbing that mountain. Keep climbing that 7,000-foot mountain, and don't give up. First person who quits loses. And we're just in some really interesting times right now.
We are.
MS Now did a story tonight. Pete Hegseth said, "We leave no man behind," talking about the weapons control officer of the F-15 Eagle that was that they went after and spent thousands of dollars, millions of dollars to save, and we had all these assets going after one man. We leave no man behind. And MS Now had a problem because they used the word man. Guys, hey, leave no person behind. You're losing the point of the story here. We're not going to leave a person behind, and you're getting lost in this argument about equity and using the word man. And this stuff is just insane. And so back to where we get focused on as pastors and Christians, we get focused on what God defines as men and women. And that's where we draw our courage from. And that's where we draw our inspiration from in the church and in the political realm, because that's the only thing that won't give up on you is faith. And I don't want to get too preachy here, but that's where I go to get plugged in.
Well, Antonio, I want you to respond, and then I have a perfect segue into that. So,
Okay.
No doubt. I mean, as believers, um, I have to constantly remind myself, and I say this to myself and in conversation with Raw all the time, we don't have the ability to provide the increase. So it takes a massive amount of pressure, even like with podcasting, it keeps us out of this numbers thing. And when people are after something, like fame and notoriety or to enrich themselves, they often become a whole different person, or it's revealed who they actually are to everybody else. And I don't want to be like that. So you're absolutely right. We have to be in prayer and understand that God's sovereignty and his hand is in everything. But from the point of birth and to the time we pass away, our whole life is just to see or to give us the opportunity on whether to be obedient to what he wants us to do or not. So even when I podcast, or us even showing up doing this show tonight, or what Roy does and maybe what you do, Dave, if it's steeped in just being obedient, that's sufficient as far as what God wants us to do. Now, if he asks an increase to us, we welcome that, but we don't have the ability to provide an increase. So that should take a massive amount of pressure off of us. So I think that's reason in part why some people that may be doing this, not all of us, because we, in our natural bodies, we're disappointed because we know that people have opportunities to make a difference and they don't. That's the human element.
Right.
But what kind of just keeps me going is I have to constantly remind myself of why I'm doing this. I'm simply trying to be obedient to God, because I call Roy some days and be like, man, I don't even want to do this.
Yeah, I get it.
Or whatever. I really didn't feel like doing it today. I didn't want to do War Room or whatever the case may be, but I have to remind myself that I have to be obedient until God gives me another direction during this fight.
Yeah.
Can I give you an example?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, this is if you don't believe in miracles, then tune me out, because you're about ready to hear one. So there was a young boy who died twice. He overdosed on heroin at Bend, Oregon, in Circuit City, as an electronics store, in the bathroom. Took him in, he coded twice. He was brain dead. And we prayed for this young man for 2 weeks, 2 hours a day. We prayed so hard for this young man that they changed the rules about pastors being allowed into the emergency room. So I guess it was the Dave rule. But anyway, the young man died eventually. But one night when we were in the room, the curtains were pulled and a brilliant bright light flashed in the room. The nurse turned to the mother and father and said, I have no idea what's going on. This actually happened. I have no idea what's going on here, but there's something going on with your son. Nothing in this room could cause that phenomenon. I have no idea what's going on. Second time, bright light flashed. Now, the boy eventually passed away. So what we were there trying to do in our focus was, we're going to pray to heal this young man, to bring him back to life. That didn't happen. But I believe God is saying, I hear your prayers. And I think sometimes we get lost because what we're trying to get done in our human focus, this is the mission, this is the task that we're trying to do. But sometimes as we're doing that, something happens somewhere else. Maybe we reach somebody else. Maybe something gets moved in another way. And we're trying to focus on this, and this didn't happen. And so we think we failed. But I really love that encounter, because I think God was saying, hey, man, I hear you. You got through, but this young man is going home. So I give that as an example of, sometimes God works in mysterious ways. Sometimes God doesn't work like we want. Sometimes things don't happen like we want, but we have to persevere. The Bible talks a lot about perseverance. One of the problems I have is I tend to be somewhat preaching what I do, because that's who I am. I'm a pastor, but I'm also somebody who loves America. And I believe that this nation is the greatest thing on earth as far as the form of government. Not perfect, but and one of the things I constantly try to do is try to find ways to motivate people to stay engaged with the fight, because one of the things I hear over and over and over again is people are just getting really weary and really tired. And we talked about that tonight. And we got to just stay engaged.
Yeah, I agree. And
sorry if I get too preachy.
No, you're okay, because I'm about to make it uncomfortable a little bit.
Go ahead.
So, a lot of stuff has went on this weekend, and obviously we're having the whatever you want to call it, MAGA civil war, the conservatives, the whatever. But when you going back to what you said about kind of getting a spiritual refill, I felt that way this past Easter Sunday, and man, I had conviction that I hadn't felt in a long, long time. But after the service was over and we were heading to our respectable events for Easter, I read the text message from Donald Trump, and it was almost as if like a bomb had dropped in my lap, right? And I just want to discuss that for a minute, because I first have to say this, and I can't believe that I have to say this, but I support Donald Trump. He is the greatest president of my lifetime. Very little has changed about who I want to be the leader in charge of this nation. But I'm going to be honest with you. That was a little bit of a party killer for me to read that tweet on Easter, and knowing that, he's in full control of what he says. I know what I post when I post on social media, and I know a lot of people are trying to rationalize this as some sort of, the pot calling the kettle black. You've never said anything like this. And it's like, no. This is a sort of a coordinated message, like he meant what he said. Mm-hmm. And I found that really frustrating the whole day, that it was just so simple to talk about annihilating an entire country and sending them to hell and mocking them. So yeah, it's been a train ride, and I just don't, here we are now, the Strait of Hormuz. There was a ceasefire. The Strait of Hormuz was open, and now I believe it's closed again. And I just feel like that it's every day. It's a flip flop that's going on.
Well, yeah, I understand that, and Donald Trump is not perfect. I get that. There are times it's like, Donald, you're your own worst enemy here. In his first term, they took away his Twitter account.
Yeah,
and you know why?
Look, I don't understand how, I don't know if you saw the prayer service with Paula White, where they're literally comparing him to the Messiah. And then,
that goes too far.
Yes, and then
can I be honest about Paula White?
Yeah,
I wouldn't have picked her for that position.
Absolutely not, especially not we're finding out about her. But again, I'm wondering about the messaging and the way this is carried out, because I feel like that was very disrespectful from our president, and to be handled, because there's 1,000 different ways that we could be handling this Iran situation, right? And so, I don't think that overall helps. And all it does is add fuel to the fire of people who can't stand him. And, but again, I don't know where we're at. In fact, Antonio, you may be able to give us a better update about where we are in this, what is it, quagmire that we call it?
Yeah, I can. I tried today on my show as much as I could, because it's a lot of information, but I think it's enough points on the board that I could point out to people. And I kind of opened and said, well, in order to figure out where things are going, and I'll get to the Donald Trump comment here, figure out where things are going, we have to understand where things are going to actually probably see what will be tried next. So you talked about the data centers. We've covered them. We've had Lee Munns on. He's been kind of leading the charge on a lot of the data center stuff here in the state of Georgia. So we know, they want to move us over to a digital currency. This is the framework for the mark of the beast system. And the data centers are going to be a huge part of that process. And AI, they want to put us in a digital prison. These writings have been presented by the World Economic Forum. We know this. Zuckerberg, speaking of Trump being thrown off of his social media pages, Dave, Zuckerberg has been appointed to the tech board, and, so forth and so on. And as I watched the war I started to think to myself, okay, I see a lot of similarities in this. So I start calling it wardemic, because in order to get us to that point, they have to crash the dollar. So the perfect opportunity is probably starting a war with Iran, where they can turn the dial up and down, up and down, up and down whenever they want to, just like they did COVID. Oh, it's going to be 2 weeks to spread. We were told this, well, this only take a couple of days. Then only going to be 2 weeks. And then here we are almost 50 days later in this war. And I don't think it's going to stop, because if I'm the New World Order, if I'm China, I'm going to exploit this opportunity, because the moment you step in the casino and you sit down in that blackjack table or whatever they do and you get a hand dealt, they got you where they want you. They can decide whether you win, so that you're that shining light in the corner to get other people to play. But you start to lose, or the process of losing, when you start to play. It's going to be the grace of God, as it always has been, if we make it out of this situation. Because this is what the globalists want. Okay, they said, well, we got a deal crafted. And then we look on the news or whatever, this person saying, well, Iran hasn't, they sent a 10-point deal. Then Trump is saying another thing. And you got all these mixed signals and the wires crossed. But what I can assure you is, when they shut this straight back down, or when they was going to open it up temporarily and they were going to charge a toll to go through there, guess what they were going to be charging in? Chinese yuan.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying to people is, the devil is in the details. They want to take us over. Our globalist leadership in this country has bought into what they call the China model. If you go back and you look up some of the videos of Charlie Munger when he was sitting there doing an interview, I think Bill Gates was there with him, but this was before he died. Charlie Munger is Bill Gates' personal lawyer before he passed away. The guy looked like a walking corpse or whatever. But he said, we want the China model or whatever, which is absolute total control. He didn't say this, but our globalist elite has bought into the China model. What is Trump's biggest issue right now? He decided to sit down at the table with a lot of the same actors that want the China model to set us up with the New World Order. This is why Zuckerberg was appointed to the Tech and Health Board. This is like, for people that know what they're looking at, they're like, what in the world is going on? We're sitting down trying to make a deal. This is a deal with the devil. You lose the moment you play. That's the point I'm making with this war. Okay, I think Netanyahu, in my personal opinion, is a globalist. I have nothing against the citizens in Israel. We had Joe Biden for 4 years. Did that make every American a bad person? It absolutely did not. But I think that's where we are, and they are going to exploit this situation until they crash the dollar. If Trump makes it out of this and people saying, oh, we playing 5D chess, something in my gut says this is not 5D chess.
Sure.
Because why would you risk the very thing that you wanted, which is your economic recovery plan? Trump's a builder. I love the fact that Trump's a builder. But the Bible tells us that for the beginning of wisdom is the fear of God. Look at who is on the president's biblical counsel. This is a very delicate situation, and we can go there biblically. I'm ready to go there if we want to go there tonight. But I don't think we don't even understand, Roy and Dave, how to mitigate this relationship with the Middle East. And it's a heartstring for like Christian people, because we don't want to be out of compliance with God. But this is what I would look in the camera and tell every Christian person. If you open your Bible, this is what it says. We were all enemies of God, all, underline all, before we accepted his free gift of salvation and repented and decided to follow him. That's Jew, that's Gentile, that's Hindu, that's Islam, that's each and every one of them. And the Bible also says that he has no respect of person. He only picked the Jews as a chosen people to show the reconciliation that happens with a loving father. If I would take my own children and get them in trouble for something that they did, if I kept Roy's children, I would treat them the same way. That is the only reason that the Jews have significance to the Lord is to show that example of what a loving father does in reconciliation. And Christians need to understand that the best way we can bless the nation of Israel is to tell them, listen, if you do not accept Christ and you take the chance and go through the tribulation and you don't accept him, in hell, you're going to lift up your eyes.
Mm.
And people ain't ready to have that conversation.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay.
Dave, I'll let you respond to that.
I'm a believer in supporting Israel. Now, there's a lot of people that disagree with me when I say that. Some people I trust. There was one gentleman who, I don't want to mention names, but he had was with a federal law enforcement agency and was party to some of the things that were going on in the past, and says that Israel is a bully. And I have to respect that man for his opinion and his perspective, because he was there when some things were going on. And he said people don't understand that Israel sometimes makes decisions and actions which are not in America's best interests. Now, I say this as a pastor who loves Israel. I have a very good friend, in fact, a member of my board who is a biblical archaeologist, absolutely loves the Jewish people. And he's going to have a problem with me for saying this. But I don't know how to answer that question. But I do know that we serve a God in heaven who has the answers. Sometimes we don't have all the answers, but I just trust that he does. Now, regards to what's going on in the Middle East, here's the question I have. If we leave the Middle East right now in the state it's in, what would happen? What likely would happen?
Well,
I can answer that question.
Go ahead.
And wait, go ahead. I just wanted to interject here with all of this because Dave, I totally agree with what you're saying. I don't know anybody that is like what you would call an anti-Semite, which I looked up the definition of anti-Semite several times and ran it through Grok, and there is no clear definition of anti-Semite. Each definition basically says that it's whatever somebody thinks is anti-Semite, right? When you say that we love Israel and we love Jews, I mean, I don't know anybody that doesn't support Israel as a country, as a nation state, or has any problem with Jews. But I feel like that any form of questioning or any form of like scratching your head or saying, hey, this doesn't seem right, that has to do with Israel or Jews, it automatically gets put into this category of you cannot ask that question. You cannot think like that. If you say this, you are an anti-Semite. And I have a major problem with that because there's no Jew or Gentile that is, to me, above any person in this world. We're all, the Christianity is a great equalizer. And so I agree with you. But again, just to have this conversation will lead to people getting their feelings hurt, wanting to strike out names because Israel should be a nation state that should be supported. However, we are not even supporting America right now. In fact, I read a statistic today that said out of 193 countries in this world, the U.S. actually pays money to 171 of those countries, right? Now, that is insane to think about when you add those Middle Eastern countries in there talking about. And furthermore, it wasn't all too long ago in our own Congress, it was revealed that our own government through NGOs and different organizations actually help fund these terrorist organizations that are killing us. So
true. Now, did you watch the Laura Ingraham show tonight? You probably didn't because it was happening right as we were going on the air.
Right.
She had some comments about what was going on, and I'm going to go back and listen to that after we get off the air tonight, because I don't know what her source was, but it was talking about the fact that Donald Trump was not just blindly supporting Israel, and that there's some members of the cabinet who said what Israel wants to do is a bad idea. I didn't read the whole story yet. I haven't listened to the report. I was listening to bits and pieces while I was getting ready for this show. I want to listen to what that report said and who she was quoting and what was said as Donald Trump was evaluating what to do, what Israel was telling what to do, what Hegseth, what Marco Rubio was saying, and they were basically saying it. And I didn't hear the whole, I just heard bits and pieces of it.
Mm-hmm.
But they were saying what Israel wants to do is a bad idea.
Right.
And I haven't heard the whole report yet, so I want to go back and listen to that. So
and I want to
caveat
point out
what
something.
I'm saying tonight because I'm still getting information on that.
I want to point out something though. We're at the point now where Laura Ingraham is admitting that on national television, right?
Right.
A few weeks ago, if one of us had said that, we would be labeled an anti-Semite, right? When the day that Marco Rubio came out and basically told the world, and probably on accident, he wasn't even thinking about it, that Israel was going to strike Iran, and we went in with them because it was in our best interest for our bases, right? All of these things. If you would have said what Laura Ingraham said, probably just a few days ago, you would have been chastised. But now it's being admitted, right? It's being admitted that Iran would not be happening right now if it wasn't for kind of Israel leading this direction. So I do have some problems with that because we elected Donald Trump, the greatest president of my lifetime, because his own platform had said, hey, we're going to drain the swamp, we're going to get rid of the corruption, and we're gonna cut down on all of this mass spending. No more forever wars. This is not my words, it's his words, and it feels to me like that we've just done this 180. And whereas we started on X, right? If you guys go back and remember, before Donald Trump got elected, X was the place. It was the public square where if we didn't like somebody, we let them know, right? We were the ones saying, hey, watch it, Trump. You don't want this person in your cabinet here. You know, I remember the screams about Pam Bondi and just how horrible that Pam would have been. Yep. So that seemed to work for a little, for a few cases, right? But again, now we're here and we're admitting that, hey, Israel's doing some things that we don't agree with. So it's like, who's running the show here?
Okay, I've got some information up in regards to the report that I was talking about. Secretary of State Marco Rubio indicated that planned Israeli actions against Iran were problematic because they threatened to drag the U.S. into a wider conflict. Rubio noted the U.S. intervened to strike Iran only after learning Israel's planned actions would trigger attacks against American foes.
There you go.
Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Dan Kane, reportedly warned that Israeli plans were not always well developed and that they were oversold. Now, this was mentioned on Ingram's show.
Yes.
What else here?
That's exactly my point.
There's more to it. According to reports covering a Situation Room meeting, Rubio reportedly dismissed aspects of Prime Minister Netanyahu's regime plan as BS, and he didn't use the acronym. That kind of overviews what I was hearing in the Ingram report, just to throw that out there. Interesting.
Sure. And I'll just say one more thing, and I'm going to turn it over to Antonio. But again, to even have this kind of conversation and question why, but I know you guys have probably seen the news clip where I think it was Israeli News had an actual live studio with a countdown until 8 p.m. And I'm sitting here watching all of this play out, and I'm watching these people attacking others, saying, "Well, you hate Jewish people," or you're. I'm like, who in their right mind?
I don't hate Jewish people. You don't either.
No, but who wants to see a country blown to smithereens? Now, again, it could have been, some 5D chess, right? And Trump, boy, he laid it out there, and right now there are no bombs dropping. But I live in a country where I can talk to you guys over the internet, and I don't have to worry about a bomb dropping over my head. It seems like we've become so complacent in our first world problems that we've never had to account for anything in our life. We've never had to suffer to the point where now we can celebrate the destruction of other nations based on the fact that we got involved, and it's clear because another nation was going to do it, and we might have been more harmed if we didn't. I'll stop there and let you guys take over.
All right, and let me make a point real quick, and Dave, it just might come in question for him.
What's that?
Sovereignty is biblical, right?
Right.
That's in our individual persons, and that's also as a nation, because I believe God ordered the nations, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So if another nation is forcing an action out of us, like I agree with, I want to be in compliance with whatever the Bible says. Right. So if God said, hey, y'all need to go fight with Israel or whoever every day, I'm showing up every day. But it sounds like from the report that you just read that our sovereignty is threatened, because if we can't make a decision, Roy said it, the Bible is the great equalizer. It gives us free will. So if the American people are forced into whatever situation like this,
right,
I don't think that's good, because at that point the nation doesn't have sovereignty, so we can't even be accountable individually on what we decided anymore, whether we are in compliance or out of compliance. I would like for the president, if we're going to be the big brother or the person you call or whatever when you're in trouble,
the world cop,
don't throw the rock and then call me after the fire is burning. We might have mitigated this situation in a different way. The president asked for certain things not to be blown up, and I believe some things were blown up that he said, hey, don't touch these things. Right. And it was us in a precarious situation. And how could we even continue, if this was to charge biblically, right, for us to support Israel the whatever way we can? If we chop our own legs off, I said this earlier in the war room, how in the world could we continue to show up, Dave?
Well, this also kind of the ball of twine is getting unraveled, because then what do we do about the NATO question? Mm-hmm. There's a question about, whether the United States remains in NATO. Now that's going to unravel the ball of string, and how does that play out? Do we have the World Peace Council, the Donald Trump, and so this Middle East conflict, I think we all kind of were, I don't want to use the word afraid, but that the Third World War will start in the Middle East, and hopefully we're not seeing the start of that now.
We hope.
But when I hear, I'll just speak just personally, when I hear us talking about getting out of NATO, and I understand that they've kind of taken advantage of America, and we've paid the bill, and we've been the world cop, and it's like, oh, they're attacking us, America, come and help us, and nobody wants to help America. That's the way it's gone forever, because we're the big brother, we're the world cop. I'm be honest, I'm unsettled when I hear, well, let's talk about that tweet, talking about destroying a civilization from Donald Trump. I didn't like to see that. I didn't like to see my president send that out there. I know he was trying to be.
You're saying are you saying you hate him now because you didn't like to see that?
Stand by.
Because that's what a bunch of people are saying.
Are you
no. Hear me out.
Blow up Iran civilization.
I don't like to hear my president say I'm going to destroy a civilization. Now, when you listen to Red Wave Radio, there's a lot of songs there that are supporting Donald Trump. I vote for him again. There are some things that Donald Trump says that for me are a head slap moment. Donald, sometimes you're your own worst enemy. And I think everybody understands that sometimes. And that is something that people love about Trump. Sure. And I was just thinking about this the other day. We went from a puppet president where everyone is pulling his strings to a president on the other extreme that, damn the torpedoes full speed ahead. And we've had these two extremes, one president administration after another.
Yes.
I support Donald Trump. I didn't like seeing that tweet. As far as NATO and talking about getting out of NATO, I would say let's slow down on this one and let's not unravel that ball of string.
All right, I want to go back with you because I agree with you In the grand scheme of things, there's nothing we can do about this Iran. Well, we all know that it's a terrorist regime that runs that nation, right? We get that.
Right.
We want to see a more prosperous Iran, a more peaceful Middle East, if there could be such a thing. But
right.
My interjection is not against Donald Trump. It's against the fact that I would feel a lot more comfortable with what we are doing in other countries had we at least been able to get maybe one thing accomplished outside of closing the border down in our own country. We've spent the entire year of 2025 patiently waiting for some America First policies, some things like Doge, like Antonio brought up earlier. You know, we were going to go into the Fort Knox and we were going to Doge. Every state was going to have a Doge, and we were going. There were arrests coming daily. They were saying, "Hey, we're fixing to arrest." Epstein list, you name it. And we ended 2025 though with no arrest, no clear victories, nothing more much in the Somalian child care. And then we are already in April, and we all gracefully stood by and said, our president knows what he's doing. He's going to go over there and he's going to demolish what their words, quote, annihilate their nuclear program, right? We did that once last year.
Yeah, we did.
The leader of Israel has been over to the White House 7 times. You mentioned people overselling. I mean, I would say weapons of mass destruction was a big oversell back in the early 2000s. We've seen this stuff play out over and over and over again, and we, the people, were like, Donald Trump's platform is exactly what we want. And that's my problem. It's not Donald Trump. It's the fact that what trajectory we wanted to go on has been sideswiped by sort of a neocon warmongering, trajectory. And I'm not saying that's from Trump, because clearly Trump is not the one that was actually running the show with this Iran. We were sort of reactionary to it. But where is this golden age? Where is this platform that we were working on and diligent, and we had all these people in the White House? It's gone. And now we're looking at possibly more people in the dream team that we have that are fixing to probably jump ship or be moved around. And that's my problem, Dave. It's not the fact that we're in Iran and trying to intervene. It's like, maybe if we'd have gotten something over here, if we were working and caring about the soil of we have, according to everything I see, we got a huge Islam problem in America, right? That's what everybody says. Islam is taking over. It's taking over New York. It's taking over Texas. We're mad about mosques, and we're mad about all of these places. But nothing can seem to be done about it here on our soil. But it's much easier to go to another country and, grab a president, or it's much easier to say, hey, I'm going to annihilate this entire country. And to me, I'm sitting here scratching my head, and then I'm also getting vilified for scratching my head. It's.
I hear what you're saying, but what we have to be able to do is ask questions of our leaders and our pastors, and I do know that as soon as you say that, like, I'm sure I'm going to catch pushback for some of the things I said tonight. No, that's all right.
But you shouldn't, Dave.
We have to be able to talk about these things.
Yes.
And I've said on podcasts before that there are some things that Donald Trump has said that I don't like. Let me name some. Canada, 51st state. Bad idea. Going on and saying that we are going to annihilate a civilization. Donald, I don't think I would have went quite that far.
Maybe he could have waited till Monday and not done it on Easter Sunday. It might have took the chill off a little bit.
But I do support Donald Trump. And,
of course.
And as you look at all the other options that we had in the last election, that was the better choice. One of the things that, and I did a podcast on this the other day, American Minute. It bothers me that when people go to the polls, they have to pick the lesser of the evils.
Man,
in other words,
earlier.
I hate the fact that we go and we look at the ballot and say, I don't like anybody on the ballot, and I'm going to vote for the one I like the least.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I did a podcast on this yesterday, and here's the problem, and please don't be offended. I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. When we quit going to the polls, what may happen is the people that we like that we hate the most win the election because we didn't go to the polls. So we need to continue to vote. And I understand the frustration, but it bothers me, really does. When was the last time we went to the election? Folks, I'm asking you the question. When was the last time you looked at a ballot and say, I want that person because I want that person, not because he is the lesser of the evils? And that's a problem.
Yeah,
That's true.
Well, Dave, I can have an opinion. Well, I won't even say it's an opinion because I can make it biblical, and I won't preach either. But I think the I support Trump litmus test is I don't know if that's helping us, and I'll tell you why. If you go back in Genesis, you remember the Israelites. Remember they was up under the direct rule of God. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
What did they want like the rest of the other nations?
They wanted the king.
Okay. It is a reason why the Constitution is important in the United States of America. And it's important why God didn't probably prefer that they did not take a king, because what happens is people don't know where the leadership ends, and that turns into like a kingship. And he warned them that the king would then make them fashion their weapons for what the king wanted. And so what I see in the movement right now overall is people are and this is where the policies and what I ran on becomes parallel, and it just kind of sticks in my mind. People are more interested, and I'm not saying this is the case with you, but this is how the lines and stuff get blurred. Well, I'm not, you're not MAGA or whatever. And I'm like, what is MAGA? Oh, do you support Trump? I support what Trump said. Do you believe do you support your preacher at church? I support my preacher at church as long as he's doing what
the Bible says.
God, as it's written in there. We have policies here when it comes to politics, and we are casting ourselves into the mold of the Israelites in Genesis. We are, because in that we're not going to even challenge leadership. It's like the litmus test is not, do you support mass deportations or the reasons why we would made sacrifices and people went to jail to fight for 2020 anymore. It's do you, and I'm not even aiming this at Trump. It's do you support Trump? You see the same spirit? And then we got these people online, and it's like Roy just said earlier. He was like, okay, I'm asking a question about whatever, and I'm getting scolded, for saying the same thing that maybe Laura Ingraham said tonight 2 months ago. You see how this is toxic for us? So I challenge everybody in the movement now to return to the policies in the text, because guess what happened to the Israelites? God preached a sermon to them and said, look, you need to follow my commandments. That was written text. The Bible tells us that God is the same yesterday, today, and forever.
Right.
It's because the word was God, the words. So when somebody tells us something, that's really important. And I think we have lost sight of that. And we kind of devolve into, oh, well, do you support so-and-so? I support Trump as long as he supports the policies that he that he ran on. That's my answer.
Sure.
And I wouldn't treat him as any different than I would ask anybody to treat me. If I say I'm going to do something, I need to be tied to what I said I'm going to do if I am an elected official. Because if that is not our highest standard and our highest value, we're no different than the Democrats. We're no different than the liberals.
I agree. I mean, I'll just
so
say this.
I can see where somebody will take very stark umbrage to what you just said and say, well, if you take that position, then you're going to fractionalize the Republican Party and the Democrats will win. But we hear me out.
All right.
We still need to be able to ask questions of those in power and say, why are you doing this? This is America. We have the freedom of speech. We have to be able to hold our leaders accountable. So I agree with your point that you made. And we need to be able to ask those questions without being kicked to the curb.
Yeah. Well, it's because it's uncomfortable, right? Look, I know the struggle out there with Donald Trump. We've all invested years of our time and our political activism into all of the attacks that the man's had, it wasn't too long ago that I was in the motorcade, and I would gladly do that again tomorrow to protect my president. But the problem is when just because Donald Trump got reelected again and is in that White House does not mean that, to me, the deep state went anywhere or that the government got any better, or they just said, oh, shucks, Donald Trump is here, we're just going to have to play ball, right? Because we know that they didn't play ball in the first administration. What I believe is that I go back to the same thing I've said before. When Donald Trump, God forbid, almost got shot, all right? Almost got taken out. I believe not only was that a wake-up call, and go back to Zuckerberg for a second. If you've ever seen the interview with Mark Zuckerberg where he was taken aback by what he saw. And I believe the little android, okay, when he was sitting there and you could see his big bug eyes even like bigger. And he's like, I'd never seen anything like that before, right? Yes, people can have a change of heart. And I know Zuckerberg necessarily has a change of heart. But my point is that inflection point was something where I believe the deep state said, wow, we are not going to get rid of Donald Trump. Because remember, he was still flailing before that, right? There was still a lot of what Nikki Haley was out there, and all these same people now that are praising Donald Trump as literally a messiah were the ones that were out there desperately trying to kick him to the curb. And once that happened, I think the world woke up and realized, wow, Donald Trump is going to win. And they scrambled and said, what do we need to do? And everybody knows that vanity is a weakness of his. In fact, and I can pull this up if people don't believe me, but even Donald Trump said it himself in a recent interview. He was talking about people. He's like, I just have a weakness. He's like, if people are nice to me, I don't care if I hate them. I don't care if they're my enemy. If they're nice to me, I like them. And he admitted that was like a flaw of his. And I believe that we're in this psychological warfare now where the deep state realized that, hey, we've got to get this man on board with some of the things we're doing. And so I think they wined him and dined him and told him how good his hair looks and gave him the chocolates and said, hey, this is a great idea. And we know that he's been somewhat compartmentalized yet again. And so I feel like that the deep state is the one, when you have people like Mark Levin of all people that are, oh my God, that's to me is like a sure sign that the deep state is alive and well and has their sort of cloak over Donald Trump. And you see Donald Trump fighting back, right? Donald Trump opened the Strait of Hormuz, said we are going to get a peace deal. And just before we went on the show, I saw a clip of Mark Levin literally seething over this, right? People like Laura Loomer and Mark Levin and Ben Shapiro that are seething because we're talking about a peace deal with another nation. And I don't know how that anybody can look at that, but then turn around and question my faith to the conservative movement and principles and the Donald, you know what I'm saying? That's what is the big mind bender for me. When these people are literally cussing and seething because we're talking about peace. And a lot of people forget, man, Israel is also at war with Lebanon. They've taken the entire southern part of the country over, and nobody even talks about it. Multiple wars going on right now.
Can I complicate the issue even farther?
Please.
What do we do with Iran? We are dealing with just hear me out. We are dealing with a country that slaughtered 30,000 of their own citizens, hung publicly a soccer star because he dared to speak against the government.
Yes.
They have got it's government gone wild on the extreme, and these are the people that we can't allow. Now, just hear me out. Can't allow to have a nuclear weapon. Now, is everything that Donald Trump said or we've done correct? That's up to question. But we also have a nation state there that has been a world sponsor of terrorism. So we've got a lot of issues here that have no easy answers.
That's
and
true.
we have to navigate this. And while we're figuring this out as a nation, we can't have a circular firing squad, because then it just kind of unravels. So we have to be able to have these tough conversations like we're all doing tonight, and where we voice our opinions, and we prayerfully try to find a way through this, because this is difficult stuff.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question, Dave. So what makes America the adult in the room in that situation?
The thing that I like about America being the adult in the room is our basic framework of governance, where we, the people, have the ability to be a check and balance on our government when it's done correctly. All right. So the adult in the room, okay, the other countries are not the adult in the room. Let's take Iran as an extreme example. The totalitarian dictator, I don't like these people, kill 20,000 of them, go out and shoot them in the street. That is not the adult in the room. The adult in the room, or what makes America the adult in the room, is that we, as the people who love freedom, who understand the value of individual liberties, have, when it works, representative democracy and control of our government. That's how we're supposed to do it. We, the people. That, if I can answer that question, that's what makes us the adult in the room. Are we perfect? No. Have we screwed up? Yes. But I love the founding fathers and the way they developed this framework of governance, equal, balanced, co-equal branches of government. And they knew, the founding fathers, I believe, were brilliant in knowing that men have greed, men have issues, humans have issues, and we need to have a check and balance here so it doesn't get totally out of control. And this has lasted for 250 years. So I think that's what makes us the adult in the room.
So you asked a question earlier, right? Well, what do we do about Iran? Well, what I would propose is that the American government stop funding the terror groups that give them money to fight against us, for starters.
That would be a good thing.
Because we are funding these terror groups. We are also funding other nations who are turning around and funding these terrorist groups. Perhaps if we stopped the flow of money over to them, if we stop the flow of weapons and RPGs and all of these things that are designed for casualties, maybe that could be a start. And I do completely agree with what you say about the adults in the room. Right? We are supposed to be. We're the cornerstone of a civilization of what the world should strive to be. But we have spent at least 4 decades trying to color revolutionize all of these Middle Eastern countries and democratize them to the point where Syria now is actually being ran, and halfway efficiently, I might add, if you do any research, by Al-Qaeda, who is running Syria at the moment, our sworn enemy for, at least 20 years. So it's like maybe we should stop and let them figure out their own country based on their own religion, and then we come back, because I feel like that everything you said about the founding fathers is completely slipping away on American soil. Goes back to what I said before.
Not to go slaying beast in foreign countries. I asked a question about the dope in the room because I think we're a bunch of hypocrites. I mean, let's go back to the Epstein files.
Okay.
If America as a country and everybody across the world saw this, and what people think of us, I think it's kind of important. If we would not go after and prosecute high-level crimes in our own country, I mean, we just put in the air in the big Satan balloon, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not even saying we the big Satan, but we're putting gas on that fuel. The Bible also tells us to remove the plank from our own eyes. I mean, We got fussed at and told that we were not a part of the movement if we wanted these things released or whatever, to see what went on with our government. I don't see how anything honorable becomes of that in many ways.
So
we've just misplaced ourselves on the world stage. Go ahead, Roy.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I wanted to bring this up before I forget it. So back to the Middle East, right? We spent 40 years, and believe me, I know I love T. Mott, Derek Grayson. I love him to death, and I've watched, listen, and read everything that he says. I was not alive in the 70s. I know how bad Iran was. I know I've watched all the footage and the documentaries and stuff on it. I understand. But you understand my point of view when it goes back to history. We were in a 40-year Cold War with Russia. North Korea was the biggest boogeyman in the world. All right.
I was alive in the 70s, but yeah, go ahead.
Taiwan, China, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Afghanistan. We've had boogeymen all throughout I've been alive, right? There's always been a finger to point to the boogeyman, right? And we systematically went in and done the same things, right? Remember when Hillary Clinton was in there, Gaddafi, we saw he died, all of this crap. 9/11, we went to war with, Afghanistan because of Iraq. We've been doing this over and over and over again. And the consensus in early 2024 was, we are tired of this. We've done it over and over and over and over again. And I asked people, this is not about Iran. I understand that we got problems with Iran. I get it. But my God, we were all under a consensus of, hey, we are tired of this. None of this is working, right? But all of a sudden, Iran is the big boogeyman again. And it's also, like we talked about, there's other countries involved here that are sort of leading this charge, and they're at war in other countries. So what is the ultimate game plan? Are we just going to mow down the entire Middle East, and then it's going to be like a greater Israel project? Is that what the end game is here? Because I don't know how we can continue to make up all these boogeymen. I mean, we still have a war going on with Russia and Ukraine that nobody pays attention to anymore. For 2 solid years, and you got to remember, guys, the day COVID stopped, right? We were under totalitarian rule for years. I was almost going to be forced to walk out of my job because I was not going to get a COVID shot. But the day that Russia crossed over into Ukraine, COVID stopped, and we have been warring ever since, right? So I point out because all of these boogeymen, we are being told daily who to fear. And I have never in my life feared Iran or any country in the Middle East. But I'm being told that this is the latest boogeyman, and this is the person that we have to hate, and this is the person we have to wish to destroy. When I look back at my own country, and I look back at the patriots involved in election integrity, and involved in constitutional law, and involved in fighting against data centers, and fighting against PFAS, and fighting against the chemicals in the air and the water and the sea, and people are laughing at us, and we're trying to do is make our country better again. And we were all in a consensus in 2024, and now it's a 180. But it's like, if you point that out, oh my God, you need to shut up, man. You need to get out of here. This is my point, man. Boogeyman, always a boogeyman. But go ahead.
You got something, Dave?
Well, this just came out. I don't know if that the man who murdered the Ukrainian refugee on the light rail, he's mentally incompetent to stand trial. One of the things,
the girl,
yeah.
Do you see mentally incompetent in America under the Constitution slit her throat on that train? This is exactly what I'm talking about, Dave.
Well, I was going to add something to that.
Please
there are
do.
some surveys that are saying it is more dangerous to live on some of the streets in our larger cities than be in Iran right now.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's kind of what we're saying. And when people say America first, it's not isolationism.
No.
A man who murdered Ukrainian refugee on light rail train found mentally incompetent to stand trial. Breaking news right now.
Man, you just made my blood pressure spike like 50.
Yep.
That's a slap in the face, man. That's a slap in the face right there.
Hey. You know, what was it you earlier, Dave, that you said something about leadership or something? I can't remember. But the tale sets the tone. I've been around a lot of great leaders, you know, sports guys, just all kinds of guys.
Right.
And they set the tone. And the most important thing is character. You know, I love Trump, but he's a player on the field for me. I'm a coach. I'm not a cheerleader. And I think that a lot of us don't understand the difference in the roles. Just imagine, Dave, you might be a sports guy. If you was on the sideline coaching a football game in your life, and we're talking about life right now and the survival of this country, so it's 1,000 times more serious. And the people behind you in the stands, while you're trying to coach your guy to win the game, somebody runs from the stands behind you that got on the same jersey, support the same team, and get in front of you and tell you, hey, you shut up. You don't tell that the quarterback to give his best. You don't tell him to do this. You don't tell him to do that. I mean, that would be crazy town. And see, that's what people that are looking at this, who are studying this, and no, we're not all perfect. That's why we're having this conversation tonight.
Right.
But I'm not going to sit here and get mad at somebody because they trying to press the guy to do his best job. And I just think that's what we done turned into. You know, it's either you're a cheerleader or it's like you belong on the other sideline. I want the best out of the president. I came up through situations where people yelled at me, you know, to make me better. And I'm not saying we need to yell at the president, but we need to yell for the president if we feel like something is going off. And if we don't understand, we get online and we yell it out into the abyss and we come together like we're doing on this podcast tonight and work it out. You might say, hey, look at it like this, or look at it differently. Or Roy might hit me and say, hey, look at this perspective or alternative. But my goodness, do we get mad and say, hey, Dave, go sit in the corner? You're not a part of the movement anymore. Get off the sidelines. You're not allowed to blow your whistle and yell at the guy on the field. Like, man, come on.
That's happening, though.
It is because they're afraid that the Democrats will win, and so you're splitting the party, and we've got to get away from that. We got to get away from the circular firing squad.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, Dave, is it's misguided. People don't understand that you have to press for stuff. You have to fight for stuff, and sometimes you have to press your own guy to get the best out of him. That's all I'm saying right now. But it's like pom-poms are nothing at all. We have to get away from that mentality and tell our leadership, if that's who you are, we don't need to put you on the field. You're not the guy for the moment.
Understand
we
that.
Pull you out the game.
Can I add a little bit to that point? Now, you asked earlier, tell me why America is the adult in the room. Because right now in America, we can have this conversation that's broadcast to the whole world on the internet from the United States. And we're not going to have somebody come barging in the room and shoot us in the head.
Not yet.
And in many countries in the world, that would happen. We would disappear in the middle of the night. You would never find us the next day. In America, we can have that conversation still, thanks to the Constitution. So
I agree with
that. In governance, even though it's not perfect, I believe as we look at all the different forms of government in the world, that the American Constitution is the best. Let me give you another example. There was an attorney in Canada. I can't remember the news network the interview was on, but he was defending a person who was praying silently outside an abortion clinic. And in Canada, you've violated the space, and even if you're thinking something silently, you can be arrested and charged and convicted of that. The attorney said on a news program, I wish I was defending my client in the United States, because you have cornerstone liberties that my client would be protected under. We don't have that in Canada. You have that in America, in the United States of America. I wish I was defending my client in your country. And so even though we're not perfect, I point to that as one of the examples of where we could be more of the adult in the room than others are currently.
All right, let me add to that, because I agree with you. However, I'm going to point this out. In Georgia
Sure.
alone, for the last 2 legislative sessions, Republicans have pushed bills early on that were masked as some sort of child safety bill,
Right.
but yet it would make illegal to make any kind of memes, any kind of political memes of anybody. They didn't care about you or me or anybody else, but that you could not make any sort of political AI memes, or else you get arrested and jailed for $5,000. We've seen it happen here. And my point is, and I get it, because I don't want to just sit here and bash a party, but when you are dealing with such a weak and feckless, whatever you want to call it, the red side of this uniparty, right? Who consistently give their power up to the Democrats, right? And consistently bring rules up that corporatize your communities, that are anti-human, right? At some point, this uniparty system doesn't even matter anymore, right? And I don't know why that we even cling to it, because it's the very essence of red versus blue is a form of slavery, control, to keep you in your lane, to keep you. Well, I've got to focus on these things because this body of people says it, but the elected officials are selling it down the river. And everybody says, well, we all know what the Democrats, we all know how the Democrats are going to be, but we're literally giving up our sovereignty and our power to the Democrats every time because of weak, feckless Republicans. So how do we move forward with this uniparty system?
Well, you can't, because you're not allowed. If you get too loud, somebody's feelings might get hurt, or
Yeah.
you get disloyal again. Your allegiance should be to what the person is supposed to be doing, and that's supposed to be the point of accountability. But we've been hyper sensitive to the way we feel, I guess, in all of this. It takes a top priority, and the legislators going to ignore you. And maybe if you're a little upset, if your taxes went up like 20% in one cycle, I mean, you would expect people to be upset, because maybe they're not protecting the citizens the way that we expect them to be doing. We've become this thin-skinned, if you look at them too hard, they fall apart, and they cut you off and say, hey, here comes Roy. Or an example, and I'm not picking on Lisa Adams. I loved what Lisa Adams does. She goes out, she gets people on record. That's what we're supposed to do.
That's
But then all of a sudden, she become a problem.
She becomes a target.
She becomes a target, and then people in our own party, maybe Lisa shouldn't show up. She's too much of a rabble rouser. She asks too many questions. She's put people on record. But that's part of what we've become. And
if we lose that in America, then we lose the country.
Yeah.
Well,
we're here tonight putting people. We mentioned the candidate's name, Ken Yasker. Hey, Ken, this is what you need to do in order to win. The thing I love about this country is we can have these questions, and somebody gets their feelings hurt, so I'm not invited to a party, to a meeting or whatever because they didn't like what I said on a podcast. It's happened. It's happened to all of us. And quite frankly, I don't care, because I believe our freedoms are like a muscle. If we don't exercise them, they will atrophy and die. You were talking about sports. You know what happens if you don't work out? If you don't keep those muscles strong, you lose it. Same thing with freedom. We have to continue to practice this thing called freedom of speech, or we'll lose it. We have to stretch that muscle.
Hey, Roy, we got a call from Christina earlier.
Yes.
You want me to call back now? Or you want me to wait?
Please do. Yeah, we're going to wrap it up here about 12 minutes. So, yeah, come on with it.
Okay. All right, I'm calling her right now.
While he's calling, I apologize for all the drop frames. As soon as we started talking about Iran, everything went downhill, but we've got the episode recorded. It'll be put out in its full entirety. We still have some people left with us. So
let me see if we can get Christina.
That would be awesome.
Telephone number.
We missed it. She might call us back.
3.
Okay. Well, hey, look, I think we could go on, and I love this this constructive conversation. I think that we seriously lack it, and we're living in an age of the internet now where we're all talking to screens, and I miss the days where you could, when you could just puff on a Marlboro and drink a cup of coffee right across from somebody, just speaking the ideas into existence, right? But we don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
But, so guys, we're gonna have about 10 minutes left to go through the comments, and we did. Okay, here we go. Bring it.
All right, thank you for calling Small Town Underground. Who we got?
This is Christina Benjamin. Can y'all hear me?
Yes,
Hey,
ma'am.
Christina.
We can hear you great.
Awesome. Hey, I was going to say a whole lot. It's gotten a little late, so I'm a little sleepy, but I just wanted to say y'all are doing a great job with the program, bringing in great information, great guests, talking about the real issues that we're facing as a state and as a nation, and just more power to you guys.
Well, Christina, you truly are a blessing. And, on the flip side of what I said about screens, at least thank the Lord that people, if it wasn't for these screens, none of us would even know who each other are. And so you are a blessing in my life. So thank you.
Can I add one thing to that?
Yes.
One of the things that I love about the new media is when back in the 70s, and I'm 66 years old, so there was 3 networks. ABC, NBC, CBS, and PBS would be the educational channel. And one of the things mainstream media have sold out. I could tell you stories. I've witnessed it. I've experienced it where ownership comes in and says, you will report this story this way because that's where the money is for whatever corporation I was working for. I'm not going to give any examples because I'll get sued. So I've felt that pressure. I've been there. I didn't read about it. I was there. So one of the things I like about what's going on in new media now, people like us are saying, hey, well, this is what we think. We're not beholden to any special interest groups. I love the fact that the American people are getting more and more and more of their information from grassroots citizen journalists. I liken it to the citizen patriots who fought for the independence of this country. And I think that's important to the future of this country because we are not beholden to any special interests. We're just going to call it like we see it.
Yeah.
And let the chips fall where they may. And experiencing both of those, back in the day when you're going to report this story this way and you better not say this. There was one time I had to stand behind a reporter and say, you fire that reporter, and I quit. Wow. Because of what she reported. Mm-hmm. And they didn't fire her because they would have lost 2 people. So I like what we have now because even though none of us are rich and we're just trying to get by financially, and folks, if you want to support any of the podcasts, it would be very appreciated. We have the ability to speak truth to power. And that's important. And like the Ken Falgrens in Portland and the Nick Shirleys, getting out there and getting the news. You're seeing a new breed of journalists out there who we're getting back to what journalism is supposed to be about, getting to the truth of the matter, just the facts, ma'am. And I'm excited about the new wave of journalism going on right now. It's important, and we need it in the country right now. We're just like this is a citizen army, farmer, soldier, patriots that fought for independence in this country.
Yeah, I'm really just a nobody. I'm just calling it like I see it. Despite what some people might think, I'm not an armchair president. So, okay, guys. So what we'll do is we'll run.
You're not going to run for governor?
No. Somebody said maybe I should run, and you know what? You might be right. Maybe I should run
what it
because
take, Roy.
Yeah, I know, but it's not going to happen. At least.
What about you,
soon.
Antonio? Are you going to run for governor?
No, man.
Okay.
I can't. Young family.
Okay.
Young family.
I'm not either.
Hey, you gotta split some of that $1 million pension that you got when you left radio with me and Roy.
Hey, by the way, folks, I'm going to be in Houston.
That's right. Tell us
next
about
week. We're going to be on the Street Level America. We're going to be talking to people at the NRA, National Rifle Association convention. We were there with Lucretia Hughes last year in Atlanta. She's going to have her booth, I understand, this year, so you can check her out. Real News with Lucretia Hughes. I'm going to be doing a separate show, doing my own show, walking the convention hall and talking to people on the street about the Second Amendment and what's going on in America. So check me out as we do that. If you want to support it, you can. You can go to streetlevelamerica.com. A little donation for the trip would help very much. And also check out redwaveradio.us as we try to do things to try to bring us together as conservatives. Thank you for the invitation to be on the show tonight.
Yeah, man. We're gonna hook back with you on when you're down there in Houston and see if we can do a live stream. So
that would be awesome.
All right. Let's see here. I'm just gonna go through just a few. We're not gonna go crazy with the comments tonight. But Christopher Lee Rayleigh, good to see you tonight. We got some stuff planned coming up. Carol Streeter, good to see you. Thomas White, good to see you tonight. Conservative Alliance of Georgia, good to see you on here. Sharon Secklinger, thank you so much for being here. Denise Penley Owen, good to see you. And Lisa Adams, good to see you.
No relation, but rock on.
Michael Proctor, good to see you on the show tonight. Appreciate it. Geraldine Daniel, thank you for being here. Holly Kessler, thank you for being here tonight. Ken Wright, good to see you as well. There's some really good comments in here. And let's see, there's some stuff in there. Holly's got a message. Let's see, Jarrett Lassiter, good to see you, Jarrett. Jarrett is going to be on the show soon. He's running for a commissioner spot in Walker County. Mag for 63, good to see you tonight. Kim's Coffee Talk, y'all need to get up and wake up and go watch Kim's Coffee Talk. It's a wonderful, wonderful show. Louis D'Alessandro, all the way from California, good to see you.
All right.
Christina Benjamin is always a blessing.
Yes.
Another 23, good to see you. Let's see here. There's so many good comments. Richard Schroeder, my hero, he's on here. Aaron Spears, I love you, Aaron. Holly Elizabeth Teree, you did amazing today on War Room. We've got to get you over here on Small Town Underground. Got to get her over here. Just what an amazing person.
Richard, keep going to the election board.
Yes.
We want to know what's
Don't
going
stop.
on there. You got to keep knocking on the door.
Yes, Richard and his wife are such precious people. Again, when I sit back and think about how all these people that we come across and we build relationships with, and just how awesome that they are, and think about the time that Richard and Arlene have devoted to go into these election board meetings, and now we've got a slew of people that are wanting to buy our votes and never once stood next to Richard and Arlene at any of these meetings, you know. Anyway, I'm not going to get off into a tangent. Antonio, tell everybody where they can donate to you and how they can find your show.
War Room Georgia on all platforms. You can go to the website. It's warroomga.com, or you can put in all the major social media platforms and find War Room Georgia. Whatever you can. If you can't contribute anything, just hit the share button. Make sure you follow the page. And another way that you're able to help War Room is making sure you continue to support Roy Hambrick right here on Small Town Underground. Donate to him. He has his links up. You guys do such a fantastic job. I know I always brag on y'all, the comments, just all the support that you guys give. You know, it helping him helps me. Helping Dave helps me. So
yeah.
Appreciate you. Yes.
We all appreciate your support very much.
Yeah, man. Dave, you're doing excellent work as always. Of course, Antonio, wonderful. We've got more podcasters out there bringing the truth out there. And look, guys, no matter what, I know how things look right now, and I know that everybody's on edge, and that, somebody can say something just totally just make you mad, and you may not agree with it. Lord knows. But the thing is, we've got to keep the conversation alive. At the end of the day, we're not enemies. I think we're all fighting for the same thing, and we've got to figure this mess out because, we didn't even get to talk about the future technology, even when in the biblical sort of prophecies, right? Artificial intelligence just breathing down our necks at this moment. The corporate welfare system that's taken over that doesn't even concern really what we've got going on here. But the point is we need to be much in prayer for each other. We need to be much in prayer for our government, our president, this world, because it is a spiritual battle, and we're fighting it every day. And most of all, like I said, focus on the truth, no matter where it leads. And maybe we can speak, like David said, speak the truth to power, and we can be strong enough that we can help guide where we need to be in all of this. That's what we've got to do. So, guys, that's all I got. Y'all got anything else?
No, just keep praying, and faith moves mountain. Nothing's impossible with God, and just get your strength, your direction from God, and just draw from that strength, draw from that wisdom, and then apply that. So there's kind of this tension between, there's a spiritual war going on in America right now. Whose side are you on? And where are you getting your strength from? It needs to be the Bible, needs to be from God. If you want to get your battery charged by God, that's where you plug in.
Yeah, absolutely. And this will be re-uploaded because I know we had some stream fallout. I don't know why. Everything's great on my end, but who knows? But guys, got a ton of interviews coming up. Be prepared. We'll have a schedule coming out soon, and we'll see you guys later.
Love them.
Legislature legalized unverifiable voting in 2000.
Like you said to Trump, but they're getting beauty.
They said, go out there and rob these houses and bring back the bounty, and then that'll pay your way.
Because Republicans who get endorsement from Georgia areas that they mean anything.
You can't sit on the sidelines any longer. You must get involved in the game. This is your sign.